Hello everybody, I'm Jonathan Ross from Ross Search Consulting, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Charles Paumelle, who is an Internet of Things expert. Charles, we talked about the whole tracking scenario, and the Internet of Things has got that amazing facility to actually track things, whether that's your kids coming home from school or your pets, right through to an agricultural perspective, and it's going to be very big. It's similar in many ways to the movement away from paper maps to us all now using Google Maps. Do you want to talk to us more about the tracking scenario?
Sure. We clearly see that being able to find things as well as to track them in real time is one of those things that's going to make the Internet of Things so useful in our daily lives. From the frustration of not being able to find your car keys to actually knowing when a £1 million asset is being used and whether it's actually being used in the right location is something that most people and most organizations have not been able to do at a price point that they would want to do for everything.
So like a logistics company, for example, moving lorries around the place, for container organizations.
Absolutely. And
utilization of factories.
Absolutely, and then you think about even something as simple as your suitcase that you're checking in an airport. You have no idea where that suitcase is for the rest of your travel. Well, I think in the next 5 years you will actually have a tracker in that suitcase that will tell you in real time where that suitcase is and whether it's the same plane as you or whether it's landing in Denver.
Charles, smart cities. That was a big one in the presentation this morning. Tell us more about how the Internet of Things can impact on smart cities.
Well, as a species, we are all becoming more urban. We've moved away from the rural life, and most of us are now living in towns and cities. And those cities are a nexus. They're a system of systems, if you think about it, where there is your education and the policing and the fire services, the healthcare provisions, the traffic management. The role of a city is to kind of combine all those various systems and kind of make them work for its citizens. Doing this without real-time information is really hard, and suddenly being able to track what's happening around the place makes it a lot more efficient. A few examples. The city of Barcelona, which is where the telecom industry comes to meet every year in the Mobile World Congress, which is one of the largest events in the world, invested in smart city management about 10 years ago, and now seeing the rewards in the form of massive cost savings. We're talking several millions of dollars just on water management alone, for instance. They also installed smart parking across the whole town, which means that as a citizen I get the benefit of knowing where I can park. So I'm wasting less time driving around trying to find the parking space because the system tells me there's one just around the corner. As a town,
less pollution as well.
That's correct. As a town, you reap the benefit of less pollution, less traffic, and more parking revenue actually, because people find their space faster. That space remains idle less long. So that's an example of one very large city adopting this and reaping enormous return on investment.
And presumably lighting as well, so only utilising lighting, street lighting when it's actually needed.
Correct, and being able to just dim the lights when there's no one around. So kind of link that and potentially also manage that with special events that are going on, so that you're doing sort of just in time rather than a regular schedule-based lighting system.
Right. Yeah. Amazing.
But it also works for much smaller cities. I had the great example of a village of about 500 people near to where I grew up in Brittany, install a smart city system to monitor just 6 buildings that they have. It's the school and the canteen and the town hall and the sports hall. And they saved about 20,000 euros just on this system, allowing them to measure their water usage and figuring out that there was a water leak. Which, if they had waited until the metering guy came a year later, that would have been going on for so long, it would have cost them most of their budget.
Right, yeah. Which is particularly pertinent given there's such a massive drive to reduce public expenditure at the moment from a council and central government perspective.
That's correct. And it's a great opportunity to kind of reach out and work with multiple parts of the community that will actually benefit from that information. And may also obviously want to contribute to offering some of that information. There's a lot of movements around what's called open data, around the performance of cities. And basically, instead of saying a lot of information that is generated not just by IoT but just generally should be made available to the constituency, to the public, and that's just one more feed to that people can publish the information they have about what's going on in their town.
Right. Yeah. And also, Charles, you talked about the insurance industry, and we're all interested in reducing our insurance bills. And you mentioned that insurance at the moment fundamentally operates on past data, whereas with the Internet of Things they can actually calculate our insurance premiums on the basis of current data.
That's correct.
Perhaps you can...
Yes, I mean the insurance industry is probably one of the oldest industries around, probably 200, 250 years old. And they've been built on amassing historical information to calculate a risk. So essentially, when you and I come up to ask for a quote, they're going to look at information they have about people that might be similar to us and kind of figure out what is the likelihood of something bad happening to us and calculate a premium on that basis. Suddenly, with Internet of Things, they can actually decide on that risk not just on the historical data, but also on our actual behavior.
Yeah.
So if you think about our health insurance, if the health insurance can measure how active you and I are, and encourage us to take more steps and do more exercise, we're likely to be healthier and claim less. So there's a virtuous cycle there about giving us an incentive to do the right thing, which in return will reduce our premiums.
Yeah.
If you think about your car driving, if the insurance company can measure how well you're driving, and now that's pretty easy to do, they're also going to be able to say, as long as you stay within the speed limit, as long as you this and that, we will actually halve your premium.
Right.
That's an interesting proposition.
Yes.
We're going to see that as well, I think, in the commercial space, where again, by being able to do things like tracking assets or measuring how certain pieces of machinery or certain buildings are operating, again, we can adjust the premiums in real time. And in the same way as fintech, financial technology startups have been the last 5 years something that a lot of people get familiar with.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of new insurtech. Brand new startups that kind of say, you know what, we're not going to worry about what happened in the past. We're actually going to give you an insurance product that's based on your current behavior, on your real-time information.
Wow, amazing.
And that will obviously be driven by IoT.
Yeah. So, some momentous changes potentially.
Yes, I think we're all going to see, in the same way that 10 years ago when Steve Jobs stood on the stage and showed up the iPhone, and predicted that all those things that we would do with it, most people were a little bit dubious.
Yeah.
I think we're exactly at the same stage with even other things. We can see all those applications, and they are getting to a commercial model that I think we're going to see very rapid adoption, even though most people are not even thinking about this.
Yeah. So this is the future. You heard it here. Yeah. Thank you indeed, Charles.
Thanks, Joe.